and welcome to the Villarreal update with me, Jamie Campbell, brought to you by Villarreal USA. Today we're talking about Villarreal's new manager, new head coach, Pacheta. A round of talks took place over last weekend with Raul, Julen Lopetegui and others in the frame to take over from Quique Setien, who was sacked last week after a run of 3 defeats in 4 games to start the season. Pacheta has been appointed as the head coach to mixed responses, but he signs on a relatively risk-free deal for Villarreal, who can pay a manager a pretty cheap wage compared to the likes of Emery, who came previously, and the likes of Lopetegui, who were linked, but also a short contract just until the end of the season, which means that Pacheta, if he doesn't impress, won't get the job full time. We saw with Javi Calleja in the past that Villarreal are not afraid to move on from managers, even if it seems a little bit harsh. Just if that standard's not quite there, they have shown a willingness to go elsewhere. And big things will be expected of Pacheta. Make no mistake, this is his first big opportunity as manager. He's been at Valladolid, Huesca, and Elche, among others, in the past. Achieved promotions with Elche and Valladolid, but left. Couldn't save Huesca, rather, came in January, couldn't save them, and left Valladolid in just a point above the relegation zone late last season before he was ultimately sacked. And Valladolid went on to be relegated, so not a great sign, but he hasn't had a chance to work with a squad as good as Villarreal's, but also hasn't worked with a club that has as expectations as high as Villarreal have got. So that'll be an interesting challenge for him. He'll be expected to do well in Europe, at least make a good run into the knockout stages of the Europa League, be it quarterfinals, semi-finals, something around that range at least. Winning it is probably a tough ask for the likes of Liverpool in this competition, and with some of the quality coming out of the Champions League, and of course with Villarreal having not spent significantly during the last transfer window, losing quality. They have to be realistic, but they'll still expect a good run in that competition, and also expect to finish around 5th, 6th in La Liga. And if they can push for top 4, then even better. But there's already work to do on that front after a disappointing start to the season. But Pacheta, we don't know an awful lot about him. What we do know is he's far more defensive based than Quique Setien was. Quique Setien, a kind of will score more the new approach at times. Very attacking based that he played at Villarreal. Give attackers lots of license to bomb forward. Didn't always consider the back line, as was shown by the number of goals Villarreal conceded. Of course, if you want to see more detail of Setien's reign and why he was sacked, the kind of response to why he was sacked, check out the last video on that where we took a deep dive into Villarreal's decision to sack him. But Pacheta far more defensively based in terms of a man-to-man aggressive press is what he kind of shown previously. That'll be interesting to see. Unai Emery had a kind of more defensive approach and certainly spent more time on the defensive side of the game with more counter-attacks and things like that. But we saw shortcomings attackingly from Unai Emery, where Villarreal weren't able to break down teams who sat behind the ball. That's going to be another challenge for Pacheta if he's going to kind of work that way. But with a more of a man-to-man press, it might be different to what we saw under Emery. Villarreal might well attack the ball in terms of when they're defending. They might push on and try to force the issue rather than sitting back at key times. But of course, that all depends on the opposition in terms of how much you can go and chase the ball, because you play against teams like Barcelona, Real Madrid, Atletico Madrid and others. They can pick you off if you don't execute that man-to-man press as well as you'd like to. And that's the danger of this style of play. But at least there will be more defensive structure, or there should be more defensive structure. But we may have to wait some time to see that, given the short turnaround here. Pacheta coming in the middle of the international break, having really just 1 week to work with the players, as he prepares for this weekend's clash with Almeria at home, which is a very winnable game. But like I said, Villarreal fans have to be patient with the new head coach while he tries to get his ideas across to the players. That implementation of the style is going to take some time. So yeah, there'll be patience required, but also big expectations, regardless of the fact Pacheta isn't particularly experienced at this level. We'll take a pause from me to go over to one of Villarreal USA writers, Rahul Lakani. He's going to give us his thoughts on the appointment of Pacheta.
Thanks, Jamie. I think the appointment of Pacheta is a weird one. I think overall I'm a bit underwhelmed, and I've tweeted as such and got a bit of stick from people saying, "Oh, I need to believe in Pacheta," and yeah, I'm willing to give him a chance. I think he's a manager who hasn't had a chance yet at the top level, at the kind of higher up the table. He was last seen at Real Valladolid, where he was sacked just before they got relegated, but he was good. He was good in Segunda. He got them promoted, and so I'm hoping it works out. I think I was really excited by the idea of Raul. I think even though yeah, he was a great player, it doesn't always work out for great players, but he's been managing at Castilla for about 4 years now. It's not as if he's a complete novice, and yeah, I think he's someone. It would have been a massive gamble, but at this point in the season, I wouldn't have minded a gamble as such. I think Setien had to go just because he fell out with a lot of the squad. It wasn't working. It does feel a bit harsh that he's only been given 4 games of the season. But if he hadn't fallen out with the likes of Danny Parejo and all these stories coming out of the dressing room where it just didn't seem right that he'd continue. But then I think, given that the board didn't really back him, losing a lot of key players in the summer, not really. It's been a mixed transfer, and some good players have come in, but it wasn't enough. And then to not back him just makes it very different for the next manager who's coming in now, who has no transfers until January. As a squad, a bit of disarray. There's a lot of sort of discontent in the squad. The results haven't been good, but there's a lot of potential in the squad. There's a lot of with the players that are there. There's a lot of potential that the squad could do a lot better going forward, and that's maybe why I wanted Raul. I thought potentially if he could come in and just pressure off, gamble for a season, no expectations, and then just try and unlock the attack a bit, just get them playing free flowing football, then that could have been quite fun. And worst case for Raul is if it didn't work out by the end of the season, then yeah, he goes and then try and get someone like Lopetegui. I think if Villarreal weren't able to get a Lopetegui right now, or a Marseille Gallardo, someone of that ilk, someone who could kind of come in as a proven name at the top end of La Liga, then it would be worth a gamble. But just getting someone like Pacheta, it just feels like a bit of a sidestep from Setien. I think it's not a downgrade as such because Setien had fallen out of the squad, but I can't see it working out long term. He's got a deal until the end of the season, I believe, and it just maybe perhaps it's a placeholder, a bit like when Javi Calleja was there before Unai Emery. Maybe it's a bit of a placeholder where Villarreal then go for someone else in the summer, and he's just there to keep the squad ticking over, and then that's fine, I guess. But I'm intrigued to see how he'll do, and I'm hoping he does well. But yeah, it does feel a bit kind of unambitious. It feels a bit unexciting from Villarreal, and right now, just looking at the way the club have operated over the summer with the transfers, with the sales, lack of kind of a new goalkeeper, which is absurd, like lack of defensive depth. It feels like a difficult job for anyone to take right now. So I don't think Pacheta should be judged too harshly. But he has to, if he wants to kind of continue beyond the end of this season, then he has to really kind of get this team playing to its full potential. Because there's a lot of potential within this Villarreal squad. There's a lot of good young players. There's still the experienced heads like Capoue, like Raul Albiol, like Gerard Moreno. And it is a squad that's probably capable of getting to Europe. But I think right now, I can't see Villarreal making top six at the end of the season.
Thanks for that, Rahul, and we'll wrap it up there until we have more to say about Pacheta, hopefully this weekend when Villarreal take on Almeria. Before that, I'll be back with another video looking ahead to that Almeria clash in the form of kind of three things we want to see from Villarreal this weekend. Of course, it could be a little bit difficult based on the fact we don't know just how much Pacheta will have installed his system of play into the players ahead of that game. But it'll be a fascinating one nonetheless, and hopefully a Villarreal win for only the second time this season. So until then, stay tuned, check out our previous videos, and of course, head to Villarreal USA for more in-depth coverage of Villarreal in English.